Good morning. I'm excited to be here today. If you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, will you please type in hi in the comment section so that we can get the session started? Okay, I need some confirmation, please. So if you can see my screen and you can hear my voice, kindly type in hi in the comment section. Okay. Okay, 919, good morning. Thank you. 056, good morning to you. Ralop Loco. Okay, Ralop Color. All right. Good morning. Hey, Carrie, good morning to you. Thank you for that confirmation. All right, Steamroller is in the house. Good morning, Steamroller. Okay, thank you. So I will be taking this as a confirmation that we are good to go. So I'm excited to welcome you to yet another promising session on the Extreme Speed Live. And my name is Sheriff Daramola. I will be your host, where we shall be evaluating the financial market in the next 1 hour using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us today. Well, it's a Friday. Happy Friday to you, Steamroller, too, as well. And happy Friday to everyone. And it's the last trading day of the week. So we shall be doing some rounding off today and open ourselves up for any potential opportunity that we might be taking advantage of today. And considering the fact that we have a couple of macroeconomic events that is coming up today, which is likely going to be affecting one of the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week, and it's going to be affecting the US dollar. So we have the University of Michigan is going to be publishing the Consumer Sentiment Index for the month of November. So we are going to be seeing that come up in, I think, 3 or 4 hours from now. Then we also have a major event too coming up in 2 hours, 30 minutes from now, and that is the Producer Price Index for the month of November. So we're also going to be looking forward to see how what result is going to come in out of this. So the previous one we had here is 6.7, and consensus are saying that they are looking at 6%. That's a little dip into the previous month. So let's see if it's going to tally with what the consensus are thinking, or are we going to be having a higher value? So we shall be knowing that in the next couple of hours from now, in order to see how this is going to be affecting price action. So definitely most participants in the market will be looking forward to how this event is going to come out, and we shall be seeing the anticipation of this event reflected on the chart as price action. So in that regard, we want to scale into the charts. Let's see what's really going on in the market right now. Are we going to be locking in our position, or are we going to be having opportunities to take advantage of a trading opportunity for today? So first of all, we have the US oil here, which is going to be the first pair we are going to be looking at today. What I want to do right now is to scale up to the daily time frame. I want us to have an holistic view of what is really going on in this market. First of all, this morning, before we scale down to the 1 hour time frame, where we shall be looking out for trading opportunities. So on the daily time frame, well, we can see that price has finally broken that consolidation phase. Remember, we had a consolidation phase between the $93.50 level here. That's the resistance point where we have been witnessing selling pressure in the last couple of months. Then we also have a support level for that channel around the $76 and $78 area, which has been serving as a demand zone in the last couple of months as well. So price has been caught within this channel, further emphasizing the indecision in this market until the early days of this week, when we started witnessing selling pressure, which we also took advantage of at the beginning of the week, which finally led to the breakdown of that demand zone to give us a bearish signal. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure like this, we should be expecting that one point in time price is likely going to come back, do a retest of structure with selling pressures on our lower time frame to join that decline to the downside. So we have the breakdown of the demand zone here at the $76 area, and price has moved to as far as the $71 level in the last 48 hours. And what we have here is something that looks like a consolidation phase around this area. There is an indecision here. But if we look at the candle that closed yesterday, we can see that this candle closed in the form of a shooting star, which is a reflection of strength of the sellers at this point in the market. So we have something that looks more like a breakdown, a retest of structure yesterday, a sharp rejection of that structure, and then price closed below that level, somewhere around the $72 level. So as we head into the New York session today, what is going to be our expectation here on the US oil? So it's important we understand what is really going on around the 71. Is it the 71? Yeah, the $71 level, which is going to be the support level for today. So we are going to be using the 71 level as a support area, where if we see a breakdown of that $71 level, followed by selling pressure below that structure on our lower time frame, we might be looking forward to selling again the US oil. And if you look at the structure here in the later part of this year, we saw that we have been on a bearish momentum since the month of June, and we had this bearish trend line figured out. And you can see the trend line has been holding selling pressure before we witnessed the breakout of that trend line here in the month of October. And we had the retest of that structure again here. We saw selling pressure at the 93.50, which pushed price further to the downside. So is it possible that price might likely come back to do a retest of that trend line one more time before the incitation of another bullish wave? So we don't know yet. So this is why we want to see what is really going on here. And like I said, we are going to be having a support level at the $71 level. And if a breakdown of that structure happens, then we might likely be seeing price coming back to do a retest of that structure. However, if we start seeing buy pressure right above the $71 level, which we shall be identified on the 1 hour time frame, then we might be thinking of joining a counter trend opportunity back into this demand zone area at the $76 level, with the hopes that probably price might retest that structure one more time to send price crashing to the downside. And we shall also keep our options open for a possible trend continuation to the upside as well if price moves in that direction. So with that being said here, the next thing we want to be doing here is to scale down to the 1 hour time frame. Let's see what is really going on around here, and our participant in this market has been relating to the $71 level since in the last 24 hours. So in that regard, we shall be scaling down to the 1 hour time frame so that we can have a better perspective into what is really going on here. So we are right back at the 1 hour time frame. In fact, we have a messy chart right now because of the huge consolidation phase we have been witnessing since price tested the $74 level. Remember, we took advantage of this bearish momentum since the beginning of the week as price moved to as far as the $71.55 level. So for the sake of clarity at this point, I would like to delete some of the structures we have here so that we can have a clean chart. So give me a moment. Let's just delete all these ones here so that we have a clean chart to work with. All right, so let me delete this. Do we still need this one? Okay, I think it's 74. I'll delete this one. I'll delete this one, no longer needed. All right, so we identified a simple structure on the daily time frame, and that's the $71 level. In fact, it's not that 71 really, but $71.22 area. So let me readjust the structure to fit into the present structure that we have here. So we have the $71, let's call it $71.40 level. which we shall be looking at how price action will be relating to that structure. Now, if we look at what has been happening here in the last 24 hours, we saw that as soon as price got into the $71.40 level, we have been witnessing buy pressure from that area. We saw that happen here during the New York session yesterday. We saw, in fact, at the close of the New York session, we had another buy pressure around this area, which you can see price was staying at around the $71 level for over 2 hours, which is evident as the bullish gap we saw here. And then during the early hours of today, we have been witnessing buy pressure again from that $71.40 area to further emphasize the strength of the buyers at this particular point in time. And so, like I told you on the daily time frame, I will not be selling here because of this demand zone that we have witnessed in here. And as you can see, since on Wednesday, we saw this impulsive move to the downside. And if we looked at this one too as well, we saw it here, and price has been unable to break the structure. So for me at this point in time, I will be waiting for price to break down the $71.40 level to give me a signal that sellers are still very strong in this market. So I want to be seeing a situation where price continues to break down the structure with selling pressure below that $71.40 area for me to be joining that decline to the downside. So at this point in time, to be selling the US oil, we want to be very patient here. We don't want to jump into any unnecessary trade at this particular point in time. Remember, we are still very profitable on the US oil, and we don't want to lose any of the money we have made so far. And the reason why I'm not going to be selling here is simply because of this demand zone here. We can see all attempt by the sellers to break this level in the last 24 hours has been negated by buy pressure. So we want to see the buy positions here taken out in such a way that the breakdown happens. And if it happens, a retest of structure or probably selling pressure below that level should inside that wave to the downside. So the other scenario we shall be looking forward to during the New York session today is if price breaks out of the $72.40 level, and that is it. And if that happens, then we might be seeing a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure where the $72.40 level will be serving as a neckline of that structure. So if we are going to be having a breakout of that neckline at the $72.40 area, probably if we are lucky enough to, then we start seeing buying pressure above that level or around that area on our lower time frame, then we want to be thinking of buying this commodity right above the $72.40 area, which at this point might likely be a counter trend opportunity and will also be a retracement of the impulsive move that started this week. So since the beginning of the week, we have a huge impulsive move right from the $82.50 level into the $71.40 area. That's over $10 thereabout. That's a huge gap. That's an impulsive move. Then if price breaks out of the neckline, that was identified as $72.40, then this might likely be a retracement into our golden zone area, which I would like to identify for the sake of clarity. So if we bring out our Fibonacci retracement tool, run it through the previous impulse leg, we should be aiming at somewhere between the 78.6 and the 50% of that previous impulse leg as an area to look out for TP target for buyers. Then it will also be serving as a sell window for those who are willing to wait out for the counter trend to mature before joining that decline to the downside. So this is what we are looking at. Let me give this a yellow color for the sake of clarity. So we have this figured out at this particular point in time. So what we are saying here is if price breaks out of the $72.40 level and coupled with buying pressure right above that structure, then we want to be joining the counter trend opportunity with a take profit target sitting between the $77 area and the $79.50 or the $80 level, where I said if we start seeing selling pressure around this area, we might want to be looking at selling the US oil from that level. And if we look at the structure where this TP target zone is, it also shares a confluence with the $79.50 level, a major key level that was broken right at the beginning of this week. That was on Monday. So we might be having a situation where price might come back to do a retest of that structure. So these are my views here on the US oil. So if you have any questions regarding what I've just explained so far, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section. And I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the charts and see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move on to the next pair. So we have Salinas, good morning to you. We have Dorothy, who Dorothy wants us to do gold. Yes, we are going to be treating the gold. Gold is one of the instruments we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week, and definitely we are going to be treating that. I think after we take on the US tech, we are going to be treating the gold next. So I would advise you to stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on the ideas we shall be sharing during the gold session. All right. Okay, so we have 603. Good morning to you. 287. Good morning. 432. Good morning. And we have Francisco. Good morning as well. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume we're all on the same page. Like I used to say, it will be useful if you munch my screen or record my screen so that you can use it as a reference point when you're about making your individual decision on these pairs we have been monitoring. So the next option we are going to be looking at is the US tech, and the US tech was quite profitable for us yesterday as we had this situation where price broke out of the $11,500 level. Remember how important that level has been for us since in the last 4 weeks here. Let me quickly run through the daily time frame so that we can see what I'm talking about here before we come back to our 1 hour time frame. So here we are on the daily time frame, and one thing we observed here on the daily time frame, well, obviously price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and as a result of this we have the bearish trend line. Then we saw the $11,000 level holding by pressure, negating all sellers' attempts to push price further to the downside. So we saw the first attempt coming in here by the buyers in the month of June. We saw the same thing happen here in the month of September, stroke the early days of the month of October, though the buy pressure there wasn't strong enough. We also have a demand zone around the $10,500 area. However, the most important structure at this particular point in time is the $11,700 level. And why have I said this is very important? Well, if you look at how this level has been a major determinant of price action in the last 2 to 3 months now, we saw here in the month of September, it was holding selling pressure. You can see here in the month of October. Later in the month of October as well, we saw selling pressure from that area, negating all buying attempts to push price to the upside. And not until the second week of the month of November when we witnessed the breakout of that $11,700 level to give us a signal that there is a possibility that buyers might actually come in from this point in the market. And immediately price broke out of the $11,700 level. What we observed here was quite interesting in the last 3 to 4 months now, 3 to 4 weeks rather. We saw that as soon as price broke out of the $11,700 area, we saw that price was caught within a consolidation phase, hereby emphasizing the indecision in this market at this particular point in time, as participants were looking forward to either a trend continuation to the upside or a possible reversal pattern that might push price to do a retracement phase before the second wave of that bullish momentum will happen. And as a result of this, we had a situation between the 11,900, which was the resistant level of that channel, which was holding selling pressure since the mid-month of November. We saw the same thing happen here later on in the month of November. So we had a little breakout of that structure here on the last day of the month of November, but it was followed by selling pressure, which finally pushed price down below that structure. Then we also have the support level here at the 11,500 level. So that's the level I was showing you on the 1 hour time frame, which has been a strong buying niche for participants in this market. Every time price comes into that level, since the second week of the month of November, we have been witnessing buy pressure from that area to emphasize the strength of the buyers at that point. You saw how this level gave us an engulfing candle on the last day of the month of November. Then since the beginning of this week, we saw that price came back into that same structure again, and we have been witnessing a multiple rejection of that level by the buyers to further give us a clue that there is a possibility that buyers might likely push price to the upside from this level. So at the beginning of the week, we are looking at two possibilities here. That is, if price breaks down the structure, that is the 11,500, then we might be looking forward to selling opportunities that might take price to complete its retracement around this area before another wave of bullish momentum will happen. So that was one of the scenarios we were expecting at the beginning of the week. Then the other scenario we were saying is that if we start seeing buy pressure around this area, we might want to be thinking of buying again in such a way that we want to be enjoying that bullish momentum to either the 11,900, 11,700, or probably the bearish trend line, which has been holding selling pressure since the beginning of the year. So this is what has been happening here, at least in the last couple of days now. We've been witnessing buy pressure here, and we took advantage of that buy opportunity right above the $11,500 level yesterday. So let's go back to the 1 hour time frame so that we can see what I'm talking about here. So right on the 1 hour time frame now, we have the situation running. So since the beginning of the week, we though have been profitable on the US tech when we took advantage of the breakdown of the channel between the $12,000 and the $11,960 level. So we saw the breakdown retest of the structure, and since the beginning of the week, we have been selling the US tech, and price moved over 530 pips in profit in our favor before we started seeing that buy pressure right around the $11,500 level, which I showed you on the daily time frame. Now, this is what we saw here yesterday. We saw the breakout of that channel, and in fact, the market gave us quite a lot of opportunities to join that bullish momentum. So we had the first touch, we had the second, we had the third, we had the fourth here before that move went to the upside. In fact, after it went to the 11,580, we saw another last touch again before that bullish momentum continued. So we had quite a lot of time to join that rally to the upside. And if you are part of this profitable journey, that you took advantage of that opportunity right above the 11,500, well, congratulations to you, and kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that move, as currently you will be running with over 170 pips in profit. So now that we're in profit on the US tech, what is going to be the next line of action? What are we going to be doing at this particular point in time? Well, what we're going to be doing is to lock in some profit at this point. And for me, from my own perspective here, I will be looking at somewhere around the $11,610 level, somewhere below that structure, to lock in some profit, considering the fact that we have a structure around that area here, which has been a selling niche at one point in time. So right below that structure, so that we can give room for price to breathe a little bit, so that we don't get caught out, we don't get dropped out of our position unnecessarily. So let's give room for price to breathe, just in case price might continue to go to the upside again. So with that being said, there was another opportunity here at the breakout of the 11,580, though I missed this opportunity. If you are taking it, kudos to you. And that also is running with about 95 pips in profit at this point in time. So going into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans? What are our expectations? What are we going to be doing? And for those who missed out on that opportunity yesterday, let's see if the market is going to be presenting us with another chance to join a potential rally to the upside. Will this rally continue? Well, this is one thing we want to be looking at, the structure, to find an answer. Now, look at what has been happening here. We saw that as soon as price got into the $11,700 level, remember that structure which I identified on the daily time frame, which has been a strong selling niche since the month of September. We saw that as soon as price got into that structure here, we started seeing selling pressure around that area. At least in the last 4 hours now, we have been witnessing selling pressure from that area. So what the next thing we are going to be asking ourselves is, Is this area going to turn out to be a reversal pattern that will probably send price crashing further to the downside in the direction of our price started the week? Remember, we have been witnessing a bearish momentum since the beginning of the week. So this is our impulsive move to the downside, and price might likely come back here to do a retracement before another wave of bearish momentum happens. So we are going to be looking at that possibility too as well. Then the other scenario we might be looking forward to is if this bullish momentum will continue to the upside in such a way that we have a breakout of the $11,700 level to give us a sign that buyers are still very strong in this market. And if that happens, multiple rejections above this level should be giving us an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade as we extend our TP to somewhere around the $11,900 level, which is the resistance point of that huge channel we identified on the daily time frame, which also shares a confluence with the bearish trend line we also identified on the daily time frame. So that's another scenario we are going to be looking out for today. Then if we are going to be taking the selling opportunity here, that is, if this turns out to be a reversal pattern, well, we might be having a situation where price reverses back into the trend line that was broken here yesterday. Remember, we had this trend line broken here yesterday. So there is a likelihood that price might come back to do a retest of that trend line, which also shares a confluence with the $11,580 level, where if we start seeing buy pressure right above that structure, we might want to be joining that bullish momentum to the upside, add more position to our existing trade. And if a breakout of the 11,700 happens, we want to be buying again, adding more position at multiple rejection of that level. As I told you earlier, we extend our TP into the $11,900 level. So now that we have all the scenarios figured out, how do we intend to take advantage of any of this opportunity when it finally happens? So what I'll be doing here is to scale down to a much lower time frame. Let's see what is really happening around 11,700. Let's see if we are going to be identifying a reversal pattern around there, then we will be identifying a neckline structure that we shall be using to guide our trading activities during the New York session today to join a decline to probably the 11,580, where we might be looking forward to or anticipating another wave of bullish momentum. So let's scale down to the 15 minutes time frame. And what do we have here on the 15 minutes time frame? So let me reset my chart a little bit and let's shift this position a little to the other side. So right now on the 15 minutes time frame, this is the $11,700 level we identified on the 1 hour time frame. And if you look at the structure here, following this impulsive move that took price into the $11,700 level, we saw a sharp rejection. Then price was unable to break the previous high, hereby giving us a lower high. Then we saw a lower low here breaking down the structure. Then there is a tendency that we might be having that bearish momentum. So with a reversal pattern identified here on the 15 minutes time frame, what we want to be doing next is to figure out a neckline that we shall be using as our trading guide for the New York session today. So we should be having something around here, which is around the 11,675 level. So I will be giving this a dark color. So we have it at 11,675. Let's label it for the sake of clarity. So we should, let's put it at the right hand side. All right. So we have the 11,675 as a neckline of that reversal pattern. So if we are going to be looking forward to selling this, we want to be seeing price below the 11,765, followed by selling pressure right below that structure in our lower time frame so that we can join that decline to the downside. So we shall be looking at something like this, price continue to the downside. And as soon as price gets into this trend line, an area which also shares a confluence with 11,580, we want to be moving our stop loss accordingly, locking some profit, probably somewhere around 11,640. And let's see how price action will relate to the structure here. And what we are going to be looking out for here is either price evolves, that is buy pressure comes in here to incite another wave of bullish momentum, then this is likely going to be a retest of structure to incite another wave. And if that happens, we should be closing with about 85 pips profit if that happens. But if price breaks down this 11,580, breaks down that structure, then that's a sign that sellers are still very strong in this market. Then a retest of structure or selling pressure below that level on our lower time frame will be giving us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So this is how we are going to be looking at selling the US tech for today. Then if a breakout of the 11,700 happens, like I showed you on the 1 hour time frame, then that will be a signal that buyers are still very strong in this market and we want to be getting ready to add more position to our existing trade. So that is my view here on the US tech. If you have any questions or you need further clarifications regarding what I've just explained so far, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section as always. So in that regard, I will be moving on to the next pair. So if you have questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section while we continue with the pairs on our watch list. So the next commodity we are going to be looking at is the XAUUSD. And the XAUUSD was a profitable trade for us yesterday as we saw price break out of the $1,786.50 level to incite a bullish move. And if you look at the structure here, this is where we were during the live session yesterday. We were around here during the live session yesterday. And one thing I stated here yesterday is that we have two structures that will be guiding us. And the first structure I stated here is this trend line here. Let me give it a red color so that we can see it clearly. So this is the trend line we identified here after connecting the series of lower highs. So we had this trend line here figured out, and we said if price breaks out of that trend line, does a retest of that structure, then we want to be joining that bullish momentum to the upside. And this is exactly what happened here. After the buy pressure above the 1,073 kept on negating all selling pressure at this particular point in time. So we witnessed the breakout of the 1,7865 level, retest of structure, and in fact price came back to do multiple rejection of that level to incite that bullish momentum to the upside. So for those who took advantage of this opportunity right above the $1,786.50 level, kudos to you guys, as you will definitely be in the profit of over 100 pips thereabout before we started seeing selling pressure coming right around the 1,795 level. So during my life, during the UK session this morning, when I woke up to selling pressures right below the 1,800. And if you remember, we identified the selling window, I think the second day of the week after taking over 3,000 pips profit on the gold. Remember, we took advantage of this sell momentum right below the 1,808 level, and the price took us all the way down to the 1,767. And one thing I stated here is that we might be seeing a retracement after identified buy pressure here that might bring price back into our golden zone area, which is the sell window here, where I said we shall be looking forward to selling pressure to incite another wave of bearish momentum. And if you look at what we have here in the last 24 hours, price has come within the sell window. That is an area between the 1,795 and the $1,800 level. And we have been witnessing selling pressure around that area to further emphasize that sellers are gradually coming in this market. Now, if we take it a little further, looking at the structure from a technical standpoint, and what we will notice here, if we zoom out a little bit into what has been happening since the later part of the month of November, remember we had this bullish trend line figured out. After connecting the series of higher lows here, we had this bullish trend line here. And you can see what happened here on Monday, that is during the first day of this week. We saw the breakdown of that trend line, and since price broke down that trend line, what you will observe here is that price has found it difficult to climb above that trend line. So we have been witnessing a retest of that trend line since Monday of this week. So we can see hereby emphasizing the strength of the sellers at this point, though we're having a linear growth anyway, but we kept on seeing rejection of that trend line. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a retest of a trend line that was broken, we want to be looking forward to selling the XAUUSD. And because of this huge consolidation phase in the last 72 hours here, the next move on this chart is going to be very, very massive. And one thing I will say whenever I see consolidation phases like this is that there is a likelihood that liquidity is no longer in the market, as most participants have withdrawn their funds from the market in anticipation of a major event that might likely serve as a catalyst to pump in some funds into this market. So we are going to be looking for liquidity right below the 1,795 for selling pressure for today to join the trend continuation to the downside on this one. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to here. So during the New York session today, we have a simple structure that we shall be using to identify selling opportunities on the XAUUSD, and that is the 1,795. So I want to see price continue to trend below that 1,795 for me to be comfortable in my sell position. So we already have the selling pressure here. The price has already taken us out of the buy position. We took advantage here, I think, with about how many pips were that? I think with about how many pips? We had about 750 pips there about before we started seeing the selling pressure. So we already have a breakdown of the 1,795 during the early hours of today. A retest of structure appears to be happening right now. We don't know how far this is going to go, so we scale down to our lower time frame, look out for selling pressure around this area. Then we might want to be joining that decline to the downside. And if price continues to the downside from here, the current structure we have here on the XAUUSD has a tendency of giving us multiple entries. So if price continues to the downside in such a way that it breaks down the 1,786, a retest of structure should be welcoming an additional position to our existing trade. So at this point in time, I will be using the $1,770 area as my take profit target in the meantime, and let's see how price action plays out from that level. So this is what I'll be looking for, or probably the 1,767. As you can see, that level was the lowest point price has ever got into this week. So we are going to be looking at how price is going to be relating to that structure as we guide our selling position if price continue to crash to the downside from that level below the 1,795. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. However, if you are thinking of buying the XAUUSD, well, at this particular point in time, I will say that you should hold on. Though we have been witnessing buy pressure since the second day of this week, I'm of the opinion that all this is still looking more like a retracement of that impulsive move. So for me to buy this, I want to see a breakout of the $1,800 level. That is, price takes out all the sell position around this area to give us a signal that buyers have come here to stay. Then a retest of structure at any point in time. It could be the 1,800 or the 1,795. But the most important thing we are looking forward to is buy pressure on our lower time frame. Then we might want to be joining the rally to the upside. But if this does not happen and price continue to trade below the 1,795, I want to be comfortable in my sell position on the XAUUSD. So if you have any questions regarding what I've just explained so far, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section while I move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at is the USDJPY, which is one of the pairs we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. And on the USDJPY, I'm very glad to let you know that we have been very profitable since the beginning of the week. Remember, we took advantage of this bullish momentum right above the 134.150 level after price was caught within this channel, remember, at the beginning of the week, where price evolved into a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure. As you can see here, we saw the first touch here. Price came into the neckline of our reversal pattern at the 135.500 level. We saw the second touch. Price was unable to break the previous low. Then we saw the breakout of the neckline area, which gave us that leverage to add more position to our existing trade. So since the beginning of the week, we were able to scoop over 500 pips before we started seeing selling pressure coming in here. And one thing I stated here during the course of the week is that price has been caught within an ascending channel. As we can see, the support level of the channel here. And then we have the resistance level of the channel around this level. So we have a breakout of the channel here. Price retested the channel, giving us a clue that buyers are still very strong in this market. We took advantage of some opportunity at this point, though we were taken out at break even, and a breakdown of the 137 level on Wednesday gave us an opportunity to join another sell opportunity. Remember, we took advantage of this, though the profit we made there wasn't that much. Then price came back again into the 137 Japanese yen level during the early hours of yesterday. This was where we were during the live session yesterday. We were around here. And one thing I stated here yesterday was that to make our job easy, I was able to identify the 136.700 level, this level here, where I said if we have a breakdown retest of that structure during the New York session yesterday, we should be taking advantage of that selling opportunity. And that's exactly what happened here. We saw the breakdown of the 136.700, breaking down that bullish trend line, remember, and price retested the structure, gave us quite a lot of opportunity to sell the USDJPY below the 136.700, and boom, price went to as far as the 135.750 with about how many pips is that we had. Price moved over 90 pips in our direction before we started witnessing this buy pressure coming in at this point. So I hope you were able to make some profit here on the USDJPY yesterday. The selling position we took advantage of here yesterday. And as we head into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans here? Well, from the look of things and seeing that price is still rejecting the 135.500 level, and we coupled with the fact that we have been witnessing buy pressure during the early hours of today, I'm of the opinion that we might be having another phase of bullish momentum coming in at this particular point in time. And as long as price remains above the 135.500, which is the neckline of the reversal pattern that we identified earlier, remember we had the neckline broken here at the 135.500. That was on Monday. Then our price is here to come back and do a retest of structure to incite another wave of bullish momentum at this point. So if price continues to stay above the 135.500, I will still be looking forward to another opportunity to join a trend continuation to the upside. So as we head into the New York session today, how do we intend to trade this? Well, the first thing I would do here is to bring out my line chart and try to connect the series of lower highs. As you can see, we've been witnessing selling pressure here since Wednesday of this week. So we want to be connecting the series of lower highs here to figure out this bearish trend line, as you can see here. So we have the trend line figured out, and this is going to be serving as our yardstick for trading activity during the New York session today. So if price continues to trend below that trend line, then we want to be thinking that sellers are still very strong in this market. But however, if we have a breakout of that trend line, then this might be a sign that buyers have come in. So we might see a breakout of that structure, then a retest with buy pressure on our lower time frame. Then we want to be joining the trend continuation to the upside. And remember what I told you about the take profit target on a long-term perspective on the USDJPY. We are looking at somewhere around the 139.500. But if we look at this bearish trend line here, remember we identified this bearish trend line during the first day of this week. Let me quickly run through that so that we can have a better understanding of what I'm talking about here. So we have this bearish trend line figured out, which has been holding selling pressure since the later part of the month of October. So we were able to connect this series of lower highs to give us that trend line here, as you can see. And we want to see how price will relate to that structure. That is, if the bullish momentum continues here to push price to that level, we are going to be waiting to see how price is going to be relating to that structure. So there are two things that might happen here. We could be seeing a reversal pattern below that structure, and if that happens, we want to be joining another wave of bearish momentum. So that means that that bearish trend line is still strong enough to hold sell pressure. However, if price breaks out of that trend line where a retest of structure or buy pressure happens right above that structure, then we want to be thinking of adding more position to our existing trade. Breakout retest of the 139.500 should also welcome additional position to our existing trade. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to, just in case price continue to the upside on the USDJPY. So on the other scenario that we will not want to ignore is the possibility that sellers could still very strong in this market. So for me to be selling this one here, well, I'll be very wary of taking selling opportunity here as long as price still remains above the 135.500. So what I'll be doing if I want to be selling this is to see a breakdown of the 135.500. And remember, even if a breakdown the 135.500 happen at this juncture, I'm not going to be getting too excited, as we need to wait for further confirmations to happen, which might likely come in the form of either a retest of the 135.500 or a retest of this bearish trend line that we just figured out here, which also shares a confluence with the 136.150 level. Then look out for selling pressure on our lower time frame. Then we could actually join that sell momentum to the downside. So the reason why I said we need to be very careful here, even if we see a breakdown, we want to be seeing a retest of structure for further confirmation, is the fact that we still have the 135 Japanese yen level here, a very strong key level that we identified on the daily time frame. Remember, which has a tendency of holding by pressure to send another wave of bullish momentum to the upside. So that is why I really want to be very patient here. So for those who are asking what 135 Japanese yen level is, well, I shared this with you on at the beginning of the week. I can do that again for those who are not part of that session so that you can have a better understanding of what we are talking about here. So here we are on the daily time frame, and you can see what we have on the daily time frame here, that the USDJPY has been on a long-term bullish momentum, and as a result of this, we were able to connect a series of higher lows here to give us that resultant bullish trend line. However, something interesting happened here in the month of August, where we saw a reversal pattern sitting right on the bullish trend line, which led to the breakout of the neckline area at the 135 Japanese yen level. And that is the neckline I'm talking about on the 1 hour time frame. As you can see, it took over 2 to 3 months before price action came back to do a retest of that neckline. So we might be seeing a situation where price evolve into a reversal pattern right above the 135 Japanese yen level to incite another wave of bullish momentum. So that is why that area is a very critical point in this market, where a deeper understanding of what is really going on here is going to be very good for us to take advantage of any opportunity at this point. So we will still continue to look out for buy pressure as long as price is above that level. And if price breaks down, then we want to be knowing that sellers are still very strong in this market. So going back to our 1 hour time frame here on the USDJPY. So I've already identified a simple structure for us that we shall be using as a yardstick for trading opportunity for today. And the first one is this bearish trend line. The red line on your screen right now is the bearish trend line. So as long as price continue to trade below that structure, we want to be selling. So if you are taking advantage of the move right below the 136.500 after the breakdown of that structure happened here yesterday and the retest, well done for identifying that and taking advantage of that. But I'll be advising you to move your stop loss, lock in some profit, or move your stop loss to break even to protect your position, just in case the bullish momentum comes in that might likely break out of that trend line to incite another wave of bullish momentum here. For me personally, I will be waiting for price to break down the 135.500 for me to be thinking of selling the USDJPY. And remember, we have a major event coming up today. We have the PPI and we have the Consumer Sentiment Index also coming up. And this might likely be a reason why we have been witnessing consolidation phases in this market. So let's get ready. Let's be on standby to catch this move when it finally happens. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a huge consolidation phase like this, when a breakout of this structure happens, the move is going to be very massive. So we want to get ready to be on standby so that we can catch it when it finally happens. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. Okay, I can see Scott Benji in the house. Good morning, Scott Benji. Trust you're doing well. It's okay. It's okay. I can understand. All right. Belen 2000, good morning to you. Glad to have you around. Okay, so in the absence of no questions, I guess we move on to the last pair we are going to be treating for today, and that is the AUDUSD. So on the AUDUSD, we are caught up in a consolidation phase during the course of the week. Remember, we took advantage of the sell momentum right below the 0.67800, which fetched us close to 100 pips before we started witnessing the buy pressure that took over the market right above the 0.66900 level. And during the live session yesterday, we made mention, we were able to identify a structure, remember, and that was a 0.67400, where I said the reversal, the consolidation phase we have been witnessing since Monday here appears to be looking like an inverse head and shoulder pattern, which from a technical standpoint is a strong reversal pattern. So we can see the head here, and then we can see the right shoulder here. And then we had the 0.67400 as a neckline of that reversal pattern. And one thing I stated here yesterday is if price breaks out the neckline area, then we want to be seeing this as an opportunity to buy the AUDUSD, that is join the counter trend opportunity. For me at this point, it's a counter trend opportunity, which is going to be a retracement of this impulse leg, where we shall be looking forward to setting opportunities to join the decline to the downside. So price moved about, how many pips was that? Moved about 55 pips in our direction before we started seeing selling pressure right around the 0.67800 level. Is it 0.67800? No. I think let's readjust this to 0.668. Yes, that was a very critical 68, or most appropriate from this current structure. So we have price come into the 0.68 level, which also has a tendency for determining how price action has been moving in the last couple of weeks here. So we saw this area was serving as a demand zone before we witness the breakdown of that structure. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back to do a retest of that structure, which is exactly what has happened here. And we saw multiple rejection of that level. Personally, I missed this opportunity here, and then we saw the breakdown of that reversal pattern. So let's see if the market is going to be presenting us with a second chance to join that decline to the downside. So how do we look out for an opportunity to join that decline to the downside? First of all, those who took advantage of this move here, kudos to you. Well done, guys. Move your stop loss accordingly, lock in some profit here. And for those of us who have missed out on that opportunity, let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance to join that decline to the downside. And so whenever we have a reversal pattern, you know what next we want to be doing. We want to be identifying the neckline of that reversal pattern. So we had a reversal pattern here, and this level will be serving as a neckline, which was broken during the early hours of today. So we want to be looking at a retest of that structure, followed by selling pressure on our lower time frame. Then we could join that decline to the downside. So we have the 0.67, hold on a second, 67800. Let's use 67800 here. Let's label this point for the sake of clarity. So we have the 0.67800. And let's see if price is going to come back into that structure to retest it before another wave of bearish momentum happens. And if that does not happen, and instead price continue to climb to drop to the downside, then a breakdown of the 0.67400 should be an opportunity to join that decline to the downside. And if you look at how important the 0.6400 is, you can see it shares a confluence with the bullish trend line that has been holding by pressure since the beginning of this week. So let's see if price is going to break down of that channel, and if it does, a retest of structure or selling pressure right below that structure on our lower time frame should be giving us a leverage to join that decline or add more position to our existing trade on the AUDUSD. So this is my view here on the AUDUSD, and I think at this point I want to be dropping the curtain. But before I do, let's quickly do a recap of what our expectations are on all the instruments we have been treating, we have been monitoring since the beginning of the week. So the first one we looked at today was the USOil. And what was our expectation on the USOil? We were looking at a situation where price has been caught within a channel between the $72.40 level. Hold on a second, let me show you. So we had a situation where price has been caught within the channel between the $72.40 level and the $71.40 area. So we can see that this area has been holding by pressure, I'm of the opinion that this might likely evolve into a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure to further break out of the $72.40 level, which also lines up with this bearish trend line here. So if a breakout of that level happen, or we start seeing buy pressure as the case is right now, as we are beginning to see buy pressure around this area, then taking advantage right above the $72.40 level will be seeming most appropriate at this point, with a stop loss at below the previous structure. If you can afford about 80 to 90 pips thereabout, you can take advantage of that, with a take profit target sitting somewhere around the $79.50 area. So that is the first scenario we are looking forward to on the US oil. Then the other scenario we are looking forward to here is if price breaks down the $71.40 area, retest of structure or selling pressure below that level, then we want to be joining that decline to the downside. So let's be on standby to be able to take advantage of these moves when it finally happens. Then we went on to talk about the option US Tech. And on the US Tech, we have been witnessing buy pressure since yesterday. We took advantage of the move right around the $11,500 level, a very, very important key level for buy pressure in the last couple of months. And currently we are running with about 190 pips in profit. So there were two scenarios we were expecting here. Well, first of all, I told you to move your stop loss to somewhere below the 11,640 so that we can protect our position against any sudden pullback that might likely happen here. So we had two structures here that I was able to identify here to make our trading activities easy during the New York session today. And the first one is the $11,700 level. Remember how important that level has been for selling pressure in the last couple of months. I showed you that on the daily time frame. So I said if the structure around here evolves into a reversal pattern, then we might be looking to sell right below the $11,750 level. So $11,675 level below that structure, we might want to be selling to the downside. And I told you that as soon as price gets into the trend line here, which also shares a confluence with the $11,580 level, we want to see how price is going to relate to that structure to know if we are still going to be staying in our sell position or we are going to be buying from this level. So if we see buy pressure above the structure, then we want to be joining our bullish momentum to the upside. And if price breaks down that structure, retest of structure should be giving us a leverage to add more position to our sell position on this one. However, if price does not go down, does not plunge to the downside, and instead we saw a breakout of the $11,700 level that is taking out the sell position there, then a retest of structure followed by selling pressure right above that structure or around that level on our lower time frame should give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So I told you that a breakout of the $11,700 level, a significant breakout of that level, should be giving us an opportunity to extend our TP to the $11,900 area. So that is that on the US Tech. Then we moved on to talk about the XAUUSD. And on the XAUUSD, I told you that we continue to look out for selling opportunities here as price continued to oscillate within the sell window. As we can see, we are beginning to witness sell pressure around the sell window. And I've stated here that below the 1,795 area is an area we want to be looking out for certain opportunities on the XAUUSD. So right below this 1,795, we want to remain comfortable in our sell position on the XAUUSD. And if price further breaks down the 1,786 retest of structure, be giving us an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. Then I also told you that for those who are thinking of buying the XAUUSD at this point, for me personally, I would not be doing any buy right now because we are still within the sell window we identified at the beginning of the week. So we are going to be waiting for price to break out of the 1,800, that is, take out all the sell position around that area. Remember that area has been a strong selling niche for participants in this market. So I want to say a breakout of that structure, a retest or buy pressure right above that level to join that rally to the upside. But if that does not happen and price continues to trend below the 1,795 level, I want to be holding on to my sell position on the XAUUSD. Then we went on to talk about the USDJPY. where I said we still have a tendency of buy pressure coming in at this point as long as price remains above the 135.500. And to make our job easier during the New York session today, I was able to identify this trend line here. After connecting the series of lower highs, we had this trend line figured out, and we said if price breaks out of the trend line in such a way that it breaks above the 136.150, buy pressure above the structure should be giving us an opportunity to join the rally to the upside. So for me, selling this one now doesn't seem okay for me at this point. I'm not feeling comfortable selling here unless price break down the 135.500 and comes back to do a retest of that trend line, probably with selling pressure. Then I want to be joining that decline to the downside. But if that does not happen and price continue to trade above the 136.150, I want to remain in my buy position on the USDJPY. Then we went on to close the day with the AUDUSD, where we're beginning to see sell pressure right below the 0.6800 level. And for those who took advantage of that multiple rejection of that area here, congratulations to you guys. And we finally saw the breakdown of that reversal pattern at the 0.67800. So I'm saying that let's wait and see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance in the form of a retest of structure followed by selling pressure on our lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. And if that does not happen and price continue to trend to the downside, a breakdown of the 0.67400 retest of structure should be inciting another wave of bearish momentum. So we want to be getting ready to either add more position to our existing trade or want to be joining afresh if you are not yet in this trade at all. So you can see the trend line here, that is the support level of this ascending channel, also lines up with that 0.6400 level. So selling pressure right below that structure should be a very, very good area to be selling the XAUUSD USD. So this is what we are going to be looking at for today. And please ensure you have moved your stop loss accordingly in whatever trade, in whatever position you have opened so far. Remember, we have major events coming up in a couple of hours. We have one coming up by in an hour 30 minutes from now, and we also have another one coming up in 3 hours from now, and that is the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. And these are events that are likely going to be serving as a catalyst that might be bringing liquidity into the market to push price in a particular direction. So we want to get ourselves prepared, lock in your profit, move your stop loss accordingly, and let's see how price action plays out at this point. So I hope I was able to simulate all the possible scenarios that we might likely be facing during the New York session today. So I hope we'll be on standby to catch those moves when they finally happen. And remember, we don't want to get too excited whenever we have a signal in the form of a breakout of structure. Whenever we have a breakout of structure, we want to be scaling down to our lower time frame to look out for selling pressure, retest structure, buy pressure to support where price is heading towards before we join the rally or the decline, whatever the case may be. So on this note, I want to wish you best of luck today. And I want to wish you a wonderful weekend, a beautiful weekend to you. And I also look forward to seeing you right here on Monday, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time. And let's come here again to get ourselves prepared for the new week. Do have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye-bye.